Welcome, everyone. Thank you for everyone for joining today's webinar on Breaking Up is Hard to Do. 11 signs it's time to break up. Sorry for the delay. Hold on 1 second, please.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We greatly appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on Breaking Up is Hard to Do. 11 signs it's time to break up with your current CMS. Before we get started, I would like to just mention a few housekeeping notes. If you would like to live tweet today's webinar, please use the hashtag CMSBreakup. The slides will be emailed to you after today's presentation and available on percussion.com. And there will be time for Q&A post-webinar, so please type your questions into the chat window and we would be happy to answer them afterwards. Today's webinar will be presented to you by Aaron Dunn, the Vice President of Marketing and Strategy for Percussion Software. Percussion software is the next generation in web content management software. Percussion transforms how you manage content, making it easier than ever to accelerate your content marketing initiatives. Percussion software is used by leading websites such as weather.com, USA.gov, Virginia Tech, and AIDS.gov. With that, Aaron, please take it away.
All right, Alexis, thank you very much, and thanks everybody for joining in. And happy Valentine's Day. I think our next webinar might be breaking up with our conference provider. No, I'm just kidding. We hope that you appreciate our sense of humor. We had some fun putting this thing together. We like to poke a little fun at ourselves sometimes, and this was a great way to kind of merge all those things together. We tried our best, as you can imagine, not to invite any of our current customers to this webinar. So if a few of you have slipped through, then I'm sure you'll appreciate the hold music for the next 40 minutes. No, we're just kidding, of course. As we get started, there's a few things that we know, having been in this industry for a long time, and that is that most people over time fall out of love with their content management system, whether or not they built it themselves or bought a commercial piece of software or used an open source package. Now, again, we made these stats up. There's no scientific reasoning here, but just in general, we know that this is something that happens over time, and there's lots of reasons for that. Some of them are good, some of them are just the way it is, and that's going to be a topic probably for another day. Today, we really want to focus in on the signs that you know the relationship is over. So our date today for the next just under an hour, it's going to be pretty involved, of course. We want to make this actionable, and we will allow time for questions at the end as well to make sure that, as people, if other things you'd like us to address, we can, and then we can always follow up after the fact. So to get started, we need to talk a little bit about content throughput, and why is your content management system more important today than it ever has been before as you think about your website and your web properties as strategic to your business. To think about content throughput, you really need to think about the volume and the rate at which you're publishing content, not only to your website, but to your website, the other websites and microsites, blogs, social media challenges, etc. And again, if that's for to enable your content marketing strategy, your broader web strategy, or even your customer engagement, all of those things rely on content. And why is that? Because today your reach is limited. Today, in a modern marketing world, you're probably marketing to the people that you already know. So you've got people that are in your customer base, potential customers, prospects that you've touched frequently or infrequently over the last year, and you really control these two main channels of interaction. However, there's everyone else, and everyone else, in fact, is a much bigger pie. All of these people beyond the people that you already know or that you already market to in your marketing automation tool probably don't know who you are, but they are looking for services and solutions that you offer. There's different tools to reach people at each of these stages. Certainly, you have your marketing automation tools, you have your CRM tools, and there's different kinds of ways to reach people. But at the end of the day, they are all going to rely on content. So not surprisingly, people are spending more money today on content marketing than they have ever before. Now, these are real stats. We're back into actual stats now from Content Marketing Institute, one of the groups who's very focused in on promoting the content marketing industry. So these are real stats that people are spending in 2013. They expect to increase their spending, in fact, perhaps even significantly increase their spending on what their content marketing initiatives. B2B Magazine and other sources say the same kinds of things. People are going to be spending more on their content marketing. Now, their goals for content marketing may vary, and how they're using their content may vary. And obviously, this is going to be different whether or not you're a B2B, B2C, college and university, or government agency. So it could be lead gen, it could be customer acquisition as two of the top three here, or simply brand awareness, engaging with prospects, et cetera, depending on where you are. And so really the key for you is to think about how do you align your goals against your content strategy. This stat is also from B2B Magazine, the different practices that people are using for content marketing. Certainly there's two at the top, high-value content, becoming a thought leader, and then there's everything else. But really, content marketers and content people in general are facing a huge challenge with content in general. And as you can see, the top three here really are around producing content, the kind of content that's going to engage people, variety of content, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on and on. At the end of the day, though, your organization needs to produce massive amounts of content, more so than ever before. And you have to ask yourself the question, can my system, can my process, can my people, my teams really keep up with that and publish all of that content rapidly enough to reach those goals that we talked about a moment ago? And if you do, from Aberdeen here, there is a connection between content and conversion. They believe, their analysis suggests that conversion rate can actually double, 2x difference between folks that are focused on how they manage conversion rates and how they think about content marketing together. And again, conversion rates can mean different things depending on the kind of organization you're in. But you can imagine in a flat traffic, if traffic is flat and you just simply get 2 times more conversions, that's doubling the amount of leads in your pipeline. And if you can manage using other content marketing tools and techniques to double your traffic and double your conversion, well, that's a 4x lift on your activities. So with that as a backdrop, we have all of these things that are driving more and more and more and more content into the web. And our poor content management system, our content management engine, is sitting there right smack dab in the middle of that. So your content infrastructure is critical, and if it's in your way, then that's going to be creating challenges for you. Today, in 2013, content really, with the term we use is content is dispersing at an extremely rapid rate. If you are able to put good, high-quality content about your organization or about the markets that you serve and getting it out into your communities, it's going to get distributed farther and farther and farther outside of your network, outside of the people you know. There's massive studies out there. The BI tools vendors have done a tremendous amount of work on showing how social networks and social influencers can really drive purchasing decisions in a very scientific way. And those rules certainly apply in all industries. Because at the end of the day, more engagement amongst your potential buyers will ultimately create more traffic to your properties and ultimately create more conversions as well. So then we have to think about the state of your web content management environment. So for many people, you have a complex implementation of some kind of content management infrastructure. Perhaps, again, it's a product that you bought. Perhaps it's a product that you built on your own, or a framework that you deployed. But at the end of the day, your content is trapped here in terms of getting it out to the web. You can't move fast enough because there's choke points along the way. And if you want to get your content, good quality content, from your authors and distribute it out into, so that it can be then dispersed and creating that network effect, this bottleneck right here can be devastating. So if you think about what's wrong with your content management system, there's many reasons. Again, many of them are well-meaning. Some of these are CMS specific. Some of these are more about the results. And there's probably zillions more, of course. But at the end of the day, you have challenges and you have problems that you need to figure out how to try and solve. So the goal really is to find a way to break through that wall, that barrier, getting content out into additional channels more rapidly. So however you think about your content management, it should be about free-flowing content, rapidly publishing content. It should be simple, it should be fast, it should be flexible, so that way your contributors can get through either through an editorial process or out into the web much faster. And when all of that is working right, your SEO and your Google rank as a result of all that great content improves, traffic builds, and then your conversions go up. And again, we've talked about conversions can mean many different things, but the correlation between Google rank and traffic is well understood. The correlation between content and high-value content driving Google rank is rapidly becoming even more understood. So, what do we do, and why are we here? How do we get to this point? It's all well-intentioned. Certainly, none of us wanted to become a roadblock. Nobody wanted us to be reliant on their development team necessarily to to publish content. It just kind of happened, and that's really a lot like a relationship. If you think about a relationship, there's that first moment of discovery when you meet somebody new. It's very exciting. The system in this case will solve all of our problems, and that excitement stage, you really you can start to tell other people, look at share stories of how great it's going to be, and then you go from there to the enchantment stage. You've started to deploy your software. It's really going to work. People are starting to use your new system, and then the harsh reality sets in, and you start to discover all these different things that about your partner that you didn't know before you met, and inevitably, hopefully not, but sometimes it ends in the broken heart. So how do you know? How do you know that, what are the warning signs that your relationship is on the rocks? So in no particular order, we have 11 of them. You might have others. Feel free to add them to the questions, and happily go through them, and love to hear your ideas as well. Certainly you can tweet them if we miss one or two. So the first one is going out requires too much prep, and in this case, publishing is more than 2 steps. So this here is an actual publication process from one of our clients prior to their purchase and deployment of our products, and that, my friends, is scary. Anything that says receive email with zip of all website files is going to be a challenge, because speed matters and throughput matters, and every minute, if you will, or hour that you're spending going through each of these different steps and processes is time that you're not spending writing more content. It's time that you are not figuring out how to engage with people in your community, and this is going to be a problem. So if your publishing process looks anything like this, then it's definitely time to break up with your CMS. Another thing that we see a lot from people that we talk to is really this notion of control and standards around your templates. So each business unit, each group, each company within the company, each country is potentially doing their own thing to try and communicate the same piece of your business. So we run into challenges where it's very difficult to apply consistent standards, consistent templates and themes, and different groups have far too much free reign to make changes. Now, you may make the business decision that that's okay, and many companies do, many organizations do, but when you want to be able to lock things down, you're not able to. And that it really creates an inconsistent user experience for your prospects and your customers, and that can really have an impact on sales. So if you can't create standardized templates or control and introduce standards, it's definitely time to break up with your web content management system. So I'm going to assume that all of you have some sort of workflow, and if you don't, and you want one, and you can't have one, then again, assign. But if your workflow looks something like this, and even more importantly, you can't change it because someone left, 6 months ago, and you need to reassign steps, or you've decided that you want to have a legal review on something, or you've decided that you don't want to have legal review. Perhaps you have new design standards that you would prefer to have your design team make sure it gets structured the right way. You can't make changes, then you are going to be in trouble. Again, if coding, if it takes weeks upon weeks or even months to code your workflow, you can't quickly adapt, add users, etc. Then that again is going to be slowing you down, and it's going to be hurting your content throughput. So if you can't easily make changes, or it's the same workflow from when you launched your website, your technology 3 or 4 years ago, it's time to break up with your web content management system. Another relationship challenge is, your other friends are persona non grata around your house. It's a classic sign of a relationship that's probably going sour at some point. Perhaps your new flame is too controlling. Perhaps in this case, the one person who has full editorial power over your web infrastructure, has a particular set and approach, but contributions should be easy. You should be able to extend the number of people who are contributing content, because if it's just one person, you're going to have a very difficult time meeting the demands that your content marketing and your web strategy is going to place on you. Even worse, if that single-threaded person who's putting all that content out is not part of the marketing stream. If it's a developer who has many other things to do, who's handling that publishing process, that's going to be a challenge. Or if it's an agency that you've contracted with to do this, whose steps removed, perhaps you're paying for that resource every time you use them. Again, this doesn't mean that as soon as your contributor posts something to the system, it goes live. That's why we have that fancy workflow that we talked about a minute ago. But you definitely want to be able to rapidly move content from the contribution stage through and to publish. And you want as many people contributing to the process as possible. And again, you can always use an editorial board to make sure everything works as it's supposed to. Page 1 for Google is harder than it's ever been before. The competition is greater. Delivering meaningful content that gets you up higher in the Google ranks is becoming a huge challenge. Certainly the changes that Google has made, that we've talked about in prior webinars over the last year and a half, continue to create and structure it such that really high-quality, frequent content is what's going to move you up the chain. If you're not blogging, you should be, as a blog is a great way to fill in the gaps and make sure that your topics, the things that people are searching on, the people that you want to find you, have ways to do that. We encourage you to think about your traffic from search, both in terms of branded traffic as well as branded keywords when someone searches on your brand, but also on key terms that are generic, because those are people who may be earlier in their sales process. So you've got to be able to do the little things. You've got to be able to get the meta tags in place. You've got to be able to get the core components of good SEO strategy in place rapidly. And if you can update or measure the success of your SEO effort using your CMS, then it's definitely time to break up. Certainly being beholden to any one person, whether or not they're in your team or not, and requiring kind of development code or going out to an agency to do things creates a lot of risk in your process. I was talking to a high volume marketing organization this past week, and they had hardwired essentially their Drupal implementation to their Marketo marketing automation process. So any kind of form changes, A/B testing, things like that would have required actual development time from the developers rather than having the marketer do what they can do. So you can imagine in a situation like that, progressive profiling, dynamic forms, advanced A/B testing of forms, all powerful features that the marketing automation platform can provide would not be available to them. If you're still beholden to the design agency who deployed, the design and development shop that deployed your website how many ever years ago, every time you want to make substantive changes, that can get expensive very quickly. While it at first may feel very turnkey in the sense that, oh great, they're handling it for you, if you're not able to do it yourself, you're going to be falling further and further behind. Seventh here is around changes and how fast can you make changes. Fixing a typo, of course, is relatively straightforward, but ask yourself the question, how fast can you make a change when you see something like this? Is it instantaneously? Is it going to take you 5 minutes? Is it going to take an hour? Or is it going to sometimes feel like never? An instant, if you just go into Dreamweaver and make a change and save the file, that doesn't really count, as we've talked about before. Workflow is definitely important. So if you can't easily fix that typo, ideally in less than 5 minutes, then it's definitely time to break up. I am a huge fan personally of damn you autocorrect, because I think it's hilarious personally. Maybe you do too. We talked a minute ago about being able to save a file and it goes live. In any kind of production environment, you're going to want to preview that content before it actually goes live. You may have to send it through a workflow, you may not, but you're going to want to see what that looks like. You want to see how it fits on your site. You're going to want to make sure that the images render the way you want them to, tables and graphics and those kinds of things are all set up. And if you're not able to preview, or at least have preview as one of your workflow steps, you're going to have a problem. It's 2013, and I always wonder if people's significant others all have their Facebook passwords or not. Mine doesn't, but probably wants it. The everyone is an admin is actually pretty common. I've seen this personally. I've lived it. When everyone's an admin on the system, you run into all sorts of situations. You find a change that you're trying to figure out who made the change, and you go look at it, and the user was admin 1. Doesn't really tell you much. It doesn't tell you about where to go to figure things out. A lot of times, everybody's an admin because the functionality is such that it's just easier, right? If everybody has the ability to make changes, if you have, if you need to publish something, you're trying to worry about who's got that capability, it winds up becoming just easier. However, there's lots of examples of where this may not be a good thing, particularly if you're running a multinational site. You don't necessarily, unless it's a business decision, you don't necessarily want, the junior marketer in the Netherlands decide one day that they're having a bad day and they'd like to publish something that might be inflammatory in Dutch, and you would be none the wiser, perhaps. Again, it might be a business decision that you trust the junior marketer in the Netherlands, but there's using workflow and using roles and permissions can really cut down on your risk, but also create better opportunities for pushing more content more rapidly. The 10th is my personal favorite in the sense that measurement is key, and if you're not able to measure the impact of what you're doing, you're going to have a challenge in 2013. So web traffic is up, or is it? Conversions are up, or are they? People may be engaging, but you may not be really sure what that engagement means. And this is really where you've got to have your web goals and your business goals aligned. And if they're not, you are going to struggle to make your investments pay off and be able to define and quantify and secure more investments for your web infrastructure and for your web strategy, marketing strategy. And remember, your executive, your CEO, your CMO, probably going to be asking, what are we doing with, what's our content strategy? What's our content marketing strategy? What are we doing with content? But your CFO says, prove it. What's the ROI of that activity? We suggest really focusing in and measuring in a couple of areas, certainly around traffic, of course, the level of engagement with your content, the extent to which your content is being, quote, dispersed out into the network, as we talked about earlier. How well is that content resonating? And also, how well is your content and your website converting into business opportunities? And it's really that last one that is key, because there are certainly a number of examples where you can drive substantial amounts of traffic to your website, but if it's not actually converting because it's the wrong kinds of people, then that traffic is largely meaningless. We could have written a blog post, you could have written a blog post perhaps about the Super Bowl and the power outage, or Super Bowl and how brilliant Oreo cookie marketing plan was. But unless you sell competing cookies or have a power management software or technology, that traffic is not really going to do much for you. So, having those things connected, being able to measure the output, being able to understand what your goals are and track the progress against those goals will give you a framework for building future budget and future activities. And the bonus tip is around your code. So if your code and your CSS is thousands of lines and is very hard to manage, you're going to have significant challenges being nimble and flexible. And one of the key areas that we're all facing right now is around responsive. So, certainly in 2012 and now in 2013, being able to build a mobile-ready site either from the beginning or soon thereafter, or retrofit your current site to be device-ready is critical. The proliferation of new tablets, the proliferation of the Windows 8 devices, love them or hate them, the proliferation of new mobile phones, smartphones, means responsive has got to be, first and foremost on one of your as part of your strategy for this year. And responsive can be done easily if you have clean CSS. For us, it took a couple days to retrofit our site, to do a base level retrofit. But if you want to, if you don't have the ability to make easy changes to that, it could take a very long time, or in fact could be impossible, in which case you're going through a whole complete redesign to achieve that, which is substantially more expensive. So after all of that, if you answered yes, or if any number of those 11 resonated with you, it's okay. You can shed a few tears, but here in Boston, we like to say it's over, with a nice hard Boston accent. But there is good news. There is hope. There really is somebody out there for you. This example here is actually the same company that we talked about earlier in this session with the really horrible publishing process. So after a year of having revamped their web strategy and publishing content more rapidly, more easily, they're able to achieve substantial traffic growth, substantial engagement, and better SEO, and also more importantly, perhaps most importantly for that company, increasing the website conversions by 80%. So it's okay. There is definitely there's a way forward. There's a way through. So what should you do? So now we've told you what's wrong. Thank you very much. We're all depressed now. So should you go drown your sorrows? Well, we would recommend that. We have a fun little iTunes breakup playlist available. You can, at the end here. You can listen to that, or you can take our compatibility test as well to figure out, if you really are a good fit. Or you could do just one thing differently tomorrow, and we'll give you a couple of ideas here. So tomorrow's Friday. A couple of things that we would recommend that you do tomorrow. We would recommend that you create a calendar, content calendar. And the reason for that is if you have a plan for how you're going to publish your content, when you're going to publish your content, it's going to be very clear where things are going to break down. Again, whether or not they break down on your process or people or technology. If everybody in your cycle is aware of what's coming, then you can start to chip away where some of those roadblocks might be. But you can also set a realistic calendar. I mean, you don't want to be saying, I'm going to publish 1,000 articles on my blog in the next 10 days if you don't have the capacity to do that. It's critical to make sure that you've connected your web goals to your business goals. If you haven't done that yet, you're going to have a very difficult time determining whether or not your web strategy is actually working in a context that matters. If you are, everybody's business is a little bit different, and your goals are going to be a little bit different, but making sure that you've been able to show how the website is going to drive, or your web strategy is going to drive those business goals, you'll be in a much greater position to then measure that you had those impacts, but also perhaps more importantly, when you ask for investments, you can prove and show an ROI on those investments. Third thing we recommend you doing is measuring your actual content throughput, and start measuring it today so that you have a baseline for future improvement. So if you're able to publish 5 articles a week today, and then tomorrow, after you've gone through this transformation process, you're able to publish 20, you should be able to quantify the value of those changes and be able to give everybody a solid response and answer your CFO's question. Okay, I made an investment. What return did I get from it? It's also important to identify where the roadblocks exist so that when you go through your process of transformation, you attack those roadblocks. Some of those, in fact, may be people and process things which you can simply streamline by having focus on the problem. Some of them may, in fact, be technology related, in which case you might need to make a change there. It's also important as part of this is to really audit, the state of your content. It's not on here, but it's definitely something that you want to be thinking about, which is saying, okay, excuse me, how much content do I have? How stale is my content? When was the last time it was updated? How frequently am I updating content every week? What content is really driving the most value? Which content is driving conversions? Which content do I wish was driving conversions? Like, it's one thing to look at the top 10 most popular pages on your website, and for a lot of you, it's your home page, it's your About the Company page, it's about your management team page and your careers, and then from there, depending on your business. But what about the 10 pages that has your best content on there, the most relevant content for your buyers, but nobody actually visits? How can you make changes to your architecture, your site architecture, to that content to get more people there? So, a little bit of fun for you as we begin to close out the webinar here. We did create a playlist, and I can honestly say that to get in the mood for putting these slides together, I definitely listened to most of these songs, and I didn't cry. But sometimes it's fun to have music as a background to our lives as you pull yourself through and as you enjoy your transformation of your web content strategy. So with that, I believe we've got some time to take some questions from the audience, which is great. So I will ask Alexis, do we have some questions from the audience?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Aaron. That was very informative. The first question is, I already know what I have is not working, but I can't get my execs to make a change. Any tips on how to break through?
Sure. That is something that we hear a lot, as you can imagine. I touched on it ever so briefly a minute ago, but oftentimes, and perhaps many of you, are shaking your head saying, yes, I have this problem. I've known I've had these problems for some time. However, it is, it's not in my budget. It's not budgeted. I can't get oversight, or I can't get anybody to help me through. Every time I try to go make the case for a technology change, I get stymied. And really, we work very closely with our prospects to frame the discussion in terms of business goals. As I mentioned earlier, if you frame your request to senior executives, depending on your relationship, simply about how your job is going to be easier as a result of this transformation, again, across people, process, and technology, unfortunately, that's not always going to be a winning business case, because unfortunately, many finance people kind of look at that as your job, and they're not necessarily interested in making those investments. So the way to turn that on its head is to align your web strategy and your web goals with a particular business objective. You should be able to find out what your goals for the next year are as a business or as an organization, and what is it about the changes that you want to make as part of your web strategy or as part of your web infrastructure are going to help the business reach those goals. What are the key measurements that you're going to put in place that shows that your investment is going to pay off? How, after we've done this work, are you going to be able to prove that the investment that you made worked? and in fact generated whatever it was, more revenue, more visitors, the ability to expand into new markets, etc. There are some tools on our website as it relates to this about building a business case for a content management system. I invite you, everyone on this call, to take a look at them.
Thank you for that answer, Aaron. We have another question. How do I know if we're producing the right amount of content?
Yeah, the right amount of content is a tricky one because there isn't a one-stop shop answer. Certainly, more is good, but it's really about more, and it's about the quality of that content, and it's really about the relevance of that content to your audience. So you could put a lot of content together. You could put a blog post out every week. You could add 10 new pages to your site every week. But if it's not having the desired result, then you're going to be wasting a lot of effort. And if you have no way of measuring, again, the measurement problem, if you have no way of measuring what happens as a result, then you're sort of flying blind. So we recommend people, again, maybe part of that audit process is to really take stock of what can your organization produce, but also what is your community's capacity to consume that content, if you will. Some industries are very highly web and social savvy. Certainly, if you're a college or university and you're trying to reach the next generation students or the next cohort of students, I should say. A volume and about student life and about changes at the school and opportunities at the school would be relevant. If you are a consulting business, you might want to make sure that content that you're putting out there is aligned with with your prospects. The key, though, is making sure that it's a pace that you can sustain. You don't want to be in a position where you are simply you're put out a whole bunch of content all at once, 10 blog posts, 20 new pages on the site, and then nothing. The effort has to be sustained. It has to be consistent, and you have to be willing to do the work to make sure that when you continue to you push and get that content out, that people continue to engage. If you just publish once, there's no reason for them to come back. It's also important as you think about the amount of content is what is success in terms of those metrics that we talked about around traffic and engagement and dispersion. So if you put all those things together, then the answer will become clear, and there's probably a formula in there somewhere that you can think about. But definitely, it's entirely related to what are your goals and what do your buyers expect and could expect.
Thank you, Aaron. We have one final question from the audience, and this is a great question. What's an easy or cost-effective option for measuring my content?
So there are a number of different ways to measure your content and measuring your content throughput. There's certainly your analytics tool. I mean, many of us use Google Analytics. There's a number of high-value packages. So measuring the volume of content, measuring the traffic as a result of that content, would come from one of those tools. The volume of content is ideally comes from your content management system. Be able to slice how many pages were added this week or this month, whatever time frame you'd like to use. It should also be able to tell you how many pages were updated, how many pages were taken down. So you have a good sense. Now, this is all within your content management system and your blog. If you're posting things directly to other channels and other cycles, then you've got some other data to collect there. Putting that all together into a single dashboard is critical, because once you can look at traffic and you can look at volume, then you can start to solve for value. So I put 10 articles out. That increased my traffic by X, and then you can use your standard marketing conversion rate math to understand and really assign a value and technically a revenue or value number that you can then use and plug into your ROI calculators.
Perfect. Thank you, Aaron.
Great.
I think that wraps up all of our questions for today. Everybody on the phone, we greatly appreciate you attending today's webinar. The slides and the recording will be available on percussion.com, and they will be emailed to you as well. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us on Twitter @Percussion. Thank you. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you.